Well, it's a pleasure to welcome the new Assistant General Manager of the Ottawa Senators, Peter MacTavish. So welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Happy to be here.
Well, nice to have you here, and certainly from the off-season and Randy Lee stepping down, and we were waiting to see who was going to be taking over that position. But in your case, it'll be a little bit different. Your job is the Assistant General Manager of the Ottawa Senators. Beyond that, there's no title that extends, right?
Assistant General Manager for now. I'm going to be playing a role in Belleville, as Pierre indicated upon my hiring. I will be following the team quite a bit. I expect to be down in Belleville, hopefully on a weekly basis, and as evidenced by my presence here in cold, beautiful Winnipeg this weekend, I will be staying close to the team and paying attention. Well,
I know it got colder back in the east from the time we left, but we left yesterday. It was 21 degrees in Toronto. We arrived in Winnipeg at -2. Today it did get above 0. Be that as it may, not like we won't know some cold weather along the way. Tell us about yourself, your hockey background.
Well, I've been a lawyer for the last 15 years, but I've also been involved in the agent business since before I started practicing as a lawyer. I set out on this path in law school with this as my ultimate goal, and got involved in the agent game with Larry Kelly in Octagon Hockey in 2003, right after my call to the bar, and then started practicing law as a management side labor and employment lawyer, and spent the past 15 years doing both, in both fields in parallel, hoping this day would come. And the last 6 years were with CA Hockey. I joined them in 2012. Worked close to JP Barry and Pat Brisso and Jimmy Nice and the rest of the group, and really felt that the experience I gained in the agent business in general, but with CA in the past 6 years, really set me up well for assuming this role.
Well, Barry and Brisson, they're big names in the agent business in hockey, so obviously as part of that organization, you've gained some valuable experience. When it came time to, when Ottawa was looking for an assistant general manager, how did it come about? Was it something where they approached you, or did you approach them?
Pierre approached me in August. We'd met a couple times over the past 2 or 3 years for lunch, just doing what we typically do in this business, just staying in touch and remaining friendly and just basically keeping in touch over the past couple of years. And Pierre reached out in August and said he'd like to have lunch, and one thing led to another, led to a more formal interview, and I had to convince him that I had the requisite background to assume this role. But I really felt, like I said, I've spent the past 15 years really with this in mind, and it came quite easily to me to talk about why I felt prepared for this role, and I guess Pierre bought it.
I don't know if he's listening right now, but we're talking with Peter MacTavish, the new Assistant GM of the Ottawa Senators. So is it much of a mind shift that you're on the other side of the table now when it comes down to negotiations?
It is, but I think that Pierre himself remarked that I think the perspective I bring to this job will serve me well in the short term, but I think the organization well, over the longer term, because I've spent countless nights watching AHL games online, and then getting texts from my players or texting my players after the game, and every kid in the AHL thinks he belongs in the NHL.
Right. And
I've tried to provide that objective perspective that, well, you may not be doing what the coach needs you to do or what the organization wants you to do. I mean, yeah, you were all these guys were great players in junior and in college, and they need time to become pros, and I realize that in my role as an agent, and you're an agent, you're a coach, you're a psychologist, and really you have to convince these guys that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I think that perspective will serve me well. I mean, I know how to speak to these kids. I understand their perspective. I understand that they're in a rush to get to the top level, but it's a process. And I think, as Pierre and others in the organization have articulated of late, and as I very much believe, you need time to develop, and you know, we'd rather these guys arrive overdeveloped than unprepared, and we want them to have long careers in the NHL.
Pierre Dorian's background is scouting. He came right up through the ranks as a scout. His father was head scout of NHL Central Scouting at one time, so that's his background. Are they expecting you to do anything like that, or are you going to be sticking pretty much on the financial side?
I mean, I've been doing scouting for the past 15 years, right? So, I mean, I think my perspective is different again, because I walk into a rink and I see a 15-year-old kid, and I have to project out as an agent. All agents out there understand this. You're trying to project out who will be not only a good American League player, but hopefully an NHL player one day. And so, you know, it's not fair. It's not foreign to me to walk in and watch players and try to project what they can be. But I think the idea is, from Pierre's perspective, is that I'll be complimentary to him. He's been in hockey his whole life, and I have a lot to learn from Pierre and others. You know, Rob Murphy. I'm sitting with Rob Murphy in the booth tonight, or in the press box tonight. You know, our new pro scout, and Rob's been a pro scout for years. He played the game. He played in the NHL. I want to learn from those guys. I want to learn, you know, the fine line between you know, an American League player and an NHL player. I mean, I have my perspective on that. I certainly think I can make that. You know, I can identify that. But these guys have different perspectives. So I will be scouting. I'm scouting tonight. You know, that's what I'm doing, and reporting back. But the idea is to bring my other skill set, you know, to the table and help Pierre out with the administrative, the many administrative duties that are involved in this job that I'm finding out. You know, we're day 11 on the job, and it's I was telling Pierre yesterday, there are a lot of balls in the air on any given day. So helping out with the administrative duties, and obviously contract research, negotiation. You know, I was involved in Daniel Ciampini's signing yesterday, so that was interesting being on the other side of the table on that. You know, it's a two-way AHL, ECHL deal, but it's an important one for us. Obviously, he's here tonight, and he's having a good first game.
I think it's always great, and when we started our discussion, our chat, you talking about this is what you've been working for a long time, from the legal profession and wanting to get to this point. You're an NHL assistant general manager, which there's not a lot of them in the world, and congratulations to you on landing that and being able to do it in Ottawa, and we look forward to seeing lots of you in Belleville.
Thanks, Jack. I really appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, and I look forward to chatting with you some more down the road.
Absolutely. Oh, believe me, I'll have you on more than you'll be sick of me.
No.
Peter MacTavish, the assistant GM of the Ottawa Senators, 1-1.